So I think we may have answered this question a little bit. There's a question I've got in my head, which is very much, I suppose it probably is the last question. So if you had your choice, you've got this audience now of EdTech companies, what is the thing that you think they're missing, and what do you think you would like from them to create this strong partnership? Or do you think we've already talked about it, or spoken about it, sorry. But what is the thing that if you could put your finger on the one thing you'd want them all to do differently, or you would like to see more of, even if you think they're all doing it well? What is the one thing you'd like to ask from the EdTech community?
I would really like you to be thinking more about what it is that a multi-academy trust needs to do to be successful, and then structure your products and your thinking and your strategies and your business cases around that. Because increasingly in the sector, there is a move towards stronger and more sustainable groups of schools, which isn't a national strategy for every school to be in a MAT, but it is a national strategy for every school to be part of a more sustainable group, as it were. And it's absolutely critical that in your thinking, you have that in mind, because I think one of the things that is quite hard for MATs to deal with, particularly when we procure centrally, which more and more MATs do, and as it's individual schools within a MAT come to the end of contracts are being drawn into a central procurement structure. It always feels a bit like, I've got 29 settings, so my price is going to be 29 times the school price. And I just feel that that's a really kind of unconsidered way of thinking about what it is a MAT is trying to achieve from an assurance and accountability perspective, from the information we're trying to give to trustees. The kind of MAT dashboards that I want to be able to share with trustees align academic attainment and attendance data on the one hand with HR, finance, governance, performance on the other hand. And I don't have any means at a MAT level to really draw those different elements in together. So my challenge, I think, to you is to move away from a school by school understanding of the English school system towards one where a huge chunk of the customer base needs a different point of view. And I think that remains somewhat underexplored, shall we say.
And a little bit naive, really, when you think about it. You sort of look at it and go, doing 29, timesing the price or whatever it is by 29 is a little bit naive.
It is, and I think, over time, we're seeing a different way of understanding school leadership as multi-academy trusts grow. So my school leaders are the important owners of the education on their site. There's no world in which that's going to be different. And yet they're also part, my trust, a head teacher is one of 29 other head teachers who report to a regional director, who report to a director, who report to me. So in that accountability structure, they have some choices and some power, but they are not the key power base within an organization. So if we think about this from a stakeholder power map perspective, there are other important decision makers who are potentially not part of the EdTech sales machine's thinking about what a coherent trust-wide solution looks like and who the decision maker is likely to be in that regard. So to give you a material example of that, in my MIS system procurement that I'm doing currently, I have invited 3 head teachers to participate on the evaluation panel along with me and my finance director. So they are an important contributing stakeholder, but they're not the arbiter of the decision, because the decision has to be made mindful of what's best for the organisation, not what is the least disruptive for an individual school within my trust, who happens to be using one certain system that they quite like and don't really want to move off it. So it's those kinds of, that shift in perspective that it would be really lovely to see.
Yeah, and I think that rounds off back to where we started as well, which is, CEOs are the owner of the vision. they're the owner of what's going to happen across the whole of the mat. And if you don't take into consideration your views and actually meet your needs, then the likelihood of being successful in the edtech industry is going to be greatly reduced in England, obviously. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, brilliant. Again, amazing conversation. I've loved every single second of it. And I'm hoping that the audience also, all the edtech companies, don't mind me saying that they are naive. But apart from that, I hope, but also at the same.
But I do think it's quite difficult, Nick. Sorry to cut across you there, but
okay.
We're changing very rapidly, actually. I love the fact that our sector is changing very quickly. It's one of the things that I find most exciting about it. But in that context, it's really hard for edtech businesses who are in their own R&D cycles at a step removed. It's hard to keep up with the pace of change in terms of corporate decision making and executive and non-executive governance in a MAT. So, I do think it's an area that it's not surprising that they maybe haven't quite got on the front foot with. And also, we're quite cautious as a sector. So It may be that a lot of time spent in developing a certain product, that there's then too much cautiousness amongst me and my peers to take a leap with. So, I think there is a certain degree of naivety, but it's a very fast moving sector. So hopefully this will help to catalyse some of the catching up and using that best of private sector thinking to help us to shape our thinking in the MAT sector.
And very quickly, before anyone thinks it, I'm not suggesting that you want to be inundated by thousands of edtech companies, but they do need to speak to more of you. Pardon?
No, I agree. Thank you for saying I really don't want to be inundated by thousands. There's an important debate to be had, though, isn't there, Nick? And so if we can engage more thinkers from the MAT sector in helping shape the edtech thinking, that's why I'm delighted to be talking with you now. It feels like this is a rich conversation and there's plenty more discussion to be had, without any doubt.
Fully agree. And again, I want to say a big thank you for your time. And I appreciate you're really busy at the moment, especially, obviously with COVID and getting kids back to school and going around and obviously not being able to start your 6 months in the way that you wanted. So I appreciate it. You're a very busy person. So a massive big thank you for your time. And it's been brilliant speaking to you. Loads of great insights, and which I think the edtech audience will really appreciate. So a big thank you for your time.